You ever have students argue with you? Give me an example, Kenneth, of a student arguing with you. What grade level are we talking about again?
Second grade.
Second grade? Second graders argue?
And it's just over silly stuff, like you do something like, say, 17 plus 14, and then, you know, just going around the room. And so it can be like 32, and like, actually it's 31, like, no, and they'll just say, no, it's not, straight. Like, why are you arguing? Like, I'm the teacher, I know this material.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something just coming like that, where, you know.
Middle school. Middle school. Starts a little bit.
It starts, first thing, in and out of book, to read.
That's simple. Everybody take out their social.
But I have to take out my book.
I don't read.
I don't.
I don't read. Don't know how to, I just don't. I don't. I
Throw
don't
it
read.
on the floor.
Throw it on the floor. And then the argument begins.
From early in the morning until I leave.
Well, let's talk about that one incident. I don't read. So, has an argument begun? It has?
No, not really.
What do you say?
Just,
If a student says, I don't, you say, Dan, everybody's supposed to have a
I
book
said,
at
of
your
course
house.
you know how to read.
Okay.
Pick the book up and start reading your book. Do what you're supposed to be doing. You know what you need to be doing.
Okay. Argument. An argument is a disagreement, right? It's a disagreement. Because,
Good morning, Trojan. The
Hold
following
on.
students, please come to the main office. Rachel Cal and Kaylee White.
and Wright is giving us our
Senior
announcements.
spirit t-shirts are available, the black t-shirts are available for the senior spirit in Mr. Profit Room, 810. You can come before school, after school, and during first lunch. The deadline for the Floyd E. Hyatt Scholarship is Friday, May 17th. For more information, see Ms. Oland in guidance. Seniors, remember to bring your college acceptance letters to guidance as well. Thank you and enjoy your morning.
It's a disagreement, correct? Get out your book. I don't read. Now we got a disagreement. The argument is the seedbed of conflict in the classroom. It's the seedbed of conflict in the classroom. Where did that, using John Rosemond's letter as an example, where do you think this quote-unquote personality conflict, according to what the parent says, between a third grader and a teacher began? Did it begin on the first day and you looked and I don't like this guy? A third grader? I don't like him. Hadn't even seen him. No, it didn't start then. There was some kind of disagreement between a third grade boy and the teacher. And that was the seedbed of conflict. A disagreement is the result of an argument. A disagreement. He doesn't want to read, or he says, I don't read. So that's where we go. After that, there's opposition. There's contention. Sometimes this results in, does it? At Apple Charter, it results in aggressive language or behavior. It happens here too. It happens here too. Let me back up. So, where does the argument begin? Where does it begin? I'll use an example out here. We all have to wear these IDs. I'll take mine off. Kids have to wear their IDs. Miss Holland, I forgot to introduce Miss Holland. I apologize. Miss Holland is a staff member here. She is our in-school suspension coordinator. It's her first year doing this. She's actually a certified music teacher, high school music teacher. and has done a wonderful job in our in-school suspension room. If you know anything about those, they can become just holding tanks, or they can become a fun place. We call ours ICE. We don't call it in-school suspensions. It's ICE. I love that too as an administrator, assistant principal. I said, man, we're going to put you on ICE for a day or two. ICE stands for Independent Classroom Experience. And we got to register that and trademark it. I heard someone was trying to take that from me. I said, well, we don't have a trademark. Independent Classroom Experience. So we put them on ICE. And one year we had only 1 year we had an in-school suspension supervisor. By about January, as assistant principal, I said, okay, you gotta go to ICE. The kid looked at me and said, you mean paradise? Woo! That was a reward sometimes. That was a positive. So we had to move that around. We're not trying to make it like a dungeon, but it should be a place in which there is reflection by the student, awareness of what they did wrong, heightening that awareness, and then what can they do to return to the regular classroom and never have this happen again. Ms. Holland has instituted some things there which do just that. I want you to reflect first. Why did you get here? How did you get here? You're going to write me an essay. What is it now, 2-page? Or 1 page?
There's one.
Yeah. I think you wanted to start out with what, 3 or 4?
Yeah, I did.
I don't write. That's what she was doing again. I don't write. So we get a page out of them. So sometimes it does result in violent and aggressive language or behavior. Using the ID. Kid walks in. All right, everybody take a seat. Kathleen, you don't have your ID. Get your ID. Get your ID. Okay. So what might Kathleen as a 9th grade student say? It's May. Kathleen, we're going to have this all year long. Get your ID on, okay? We got to start class.
I left it at home. I don't need that anymore.
Well, we'll have to get you a temporary ID, and you got to put it on there, okay?
Well, whatever.
Whatever, all right? How would a lot of teachers address that? Whatever. Okay. We will find today, in some role play, a little more extensive than we just did, that arguments begin the second time the adult speaks. The adult speaks. Have you ever heard this from a teacher? Maybe from your own house. Why are you arguing with me? Marcus, you're arguing with me. Why are you arguing with me? You told him to do something. He didn't do it. And then there was some other words that came out of your mouth that caused him to give you, well, maybe not cause, he just chose that opportunity to give you some more back, and you continued. Why are you arguing with me? Who's actually arguing? Is it Marcus as the student, or is it the teacher? We're going to find out today that arguments begin the second time the adult speaks. Oppositional students are argumentative. You need to know that to begin with. Anybody ever worked with an ODD student? Oppositional defiant behavior disorder? Yeah. They argue, don't they? What about students who are not ODD? If we had started at 7:30 this morning just to observe in our cafeteria, and once again, we have an excellent school report card. I talked to a parent yesterday and she said, well, you know, I didn't even bring that up. She said, I know how y'all are. You got an excellent report card. You got an excellent report card in academics, but there are problems at this school. These kids misbehave. You don't have excellence in academics, in behavior. They don't have that on a report card. They won't put that on a report card. And I listened and I said, well, let me just say a couple things. You can't achieve an excellent academic report card in this state or any other state and maintain it for 4 consecutive years without having excellent behavior out of your students overall. Excellent. Does that mean they all behave excellently every day? No, no more so than every kid gets an A every day. We'd like for them to on that first day in particular, but they don't. But overall, yes, our students behave in an excellent manner. And yes, it is reported on our report card. If you go back, if you open that state report card, and it says profile. Profile of students, profile of parents or the community, and profile of the school overall. And in that profile of students, it gives the percentage of students who were retained or are working at one grade level below the norm. And they've got, and if you take a look at our report card, ours in those areas, another one, students who were expelled for violent offenses, students who were suspended, the percentage, the number of days. If you look at those statistics in our report card and other excellent schools like Wando in this area, Fort Dorchester and other, those statistics of those behavioral statistics are below the state average and the average of other schools like us. Okay? So yes, in order to have an excellent academic record, you're going to have excellent behavior from your students overall. But if you went to our cafeteria this morning at 7:30 in the morning and observed our regular students, not any ODB students, just, or they might be, but let's just say the CP kid walks in, honors kids, they're sitting down. When I say argument, let's don't think about violence, because that's what most people think of. But will you hear any arguments between kids? Teenagers. Do teenagers argue? It can be at the lowest level. Somebody got an award, a Grammy Award the night before. And they start talking about that. Are they going to disagree? So there's going to be some disagreements. And there are going to be some arguments about it. Teenagers, middle school kids, kids in general, they argue. Okay? That's part of their nature. Part of that's human nature, too. I had a disagreement. I don't know if it was an argument. I don't know if it moved to that level. This morning with one of the assistant principals, he mentioned something about baseball. He's from the Boston area, and we mentioned a baseball player, and I said, he was good. He was outstanding. He wasn't outstanding. He's from the team that I like, but he's still in. So we began to argue about it. So, the question that we have here is, how do you stop an argument? How do you stop it? And before we address that, we're going to take about a 10-minute break, maximum. Okay? Give you a chance to get up, stretch your legs. We're going to talk about stopping an argument. Now remember this too. When we talked about how you were trained to handle student, child, adolescent, primary, elementary, middle, high school behavior, how do you manage that behavior? I think I heard that you learned it from a mentor. You learned it in student teaching. You never really took a class. I never took a class in student teaching. In undergraduate school. I took the methodology courses. I took that media course. Had to learn how to turn on the tape player. I'm really big. Wow, we got a cassette player. Man. All right, so we learned all that, but never did they say, okay, let's talk about how students are going to behave in your classroom and what you do to de-escalate those interruptions in your classroom. De-escalate them so it doesn't turn into something that ends up in the office. How do you de-escalate? You're giving instruction. How do you de-escalate the principal so that it doesn't turn into, this is what I call misdemeanor pencil tapping. I told you, John, stop tapping your pencil. To myself. Didn't I tell you stop pencil tapping? Next time you tap your pencil, you might have to go to the office. So he's got misdemeanor right now, right? That was just 30 miles an hour in a 25. Now he's doing it again. He's doing it intentionally, isn't he? Now it's turning into felony pencil tapping. And he's out of there. Get out of my room. Go to the assistant principal. How do you de-escalate the misdemeanor pencil tapping so it becomes no pencil tapping? You were not taught those things. You learned them along the way. Had a counselor say to me one time, the elementary counselor. We were talking about teachers. Oh, I had to go down to Miss Smith's class again today. She got second graders. I don't know if she can handle us kids. Yeah, she said, you know what? She jumps on every little thing. I have talked to her myself as a counselor and say, sometimes you have to see things but don't see. See but don't see. What's another word for that?
Ignore.
Bam. You ignore them. You've been taught that, or you learned it from someone. That's just misdemeanor pencil tapping. If you ignore it, it'll go away. It'll go away. Doesn't always, does it? Before that, who was it I just said that talked to me when I said, oh, Miss Smith, she got a problem with her second graders? The counselor. The counselor. So you use some of your own homemade counseling, which is fine. That's part and parcel of being a teacher. Or you might say, I tell you what, oh, that pencil tapping's got to stop. I'm going to send you to the counselor. And the counselor's going to, you ever get that? Where's the counselor in here? You ever get that? They come down. Instead of sending them to the assistant principal for disciplinary reasons, maybe we can do some intervention, some counseling. So you're part of the fix-it shop, right? If you ignore that behavior, and you continue to ignore it, what does that take on your part? One word.
Tolerance.
Tolerance is not a, is it or isn't a virtue? Patience. Patience is a virtue. Tolerance, okay? Understanding what your classroom makeup is. If I ignore this, is it going to go away? Is he just looking for attention right now? And if I give him that look, maybe he knows that I know he's here, so I'll stop. Okay? So it takes patience. So you've used all those things. Let's say you've used those in the classroom. You've shown them respect too. You've shown them respect. You got your plan up there. This is what we're going to do today. Here's our objectives. We're going to be able to count from 1 to 10. Forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to be able to count from 1 to 10. That's what we're going to. That's our objective today for this lesson. And what are the activities that we're going to do? We're going to get out our little chips. We're going to count how many chips we got. How many colored chips. We're going to know all that. We're going to count those things. You've shown them respect. You came into the classroom prepared for them. You've used counseling. You are ignoring the behavior. You're patient, but they don't work.
Or you could just go by whoever's tapping and say, let me hold on to this for you until you're ready to write again, and I'll give it back to you sometimes. That would work.
You could.
Yeah. But then, and I've seen where you shake it and then you get something else and it's something else that's fine.
Really? Exactly.
Because I remember when I was in high school, we had a teacher who was annoyed by every little noise and the kids would just do, they just do.
Nah.
Yes, as soon as one starts and then that's taken care of, someone else starts doing just annoy her.
And how do you think the kids knew that some noise?
Because she already told, you know,
She what?
She told them.
She told them.
Right, you are driving me nuts with that pencil. Will you stop?
Exactly. You want to pull my chain? Here, tap your pencil. She might as well have said that. Right? How do you avoid that and get away from doing that? And stopping those low-level interventions. Friend of mine, Dr. Terry Alderman, who started here in Charleston, has passed away now, but he had some techniques very similar to what you're talking about. He used to use little post-it notes, sticky notes, and he would have 2 different colors. I can't remember, it would change them. He'd let the class know, rules, all right, advise the kids what's going on, all right, I got these sticky notes. This blue one, you might see one of those, boom, show up right next to your desk, or right on your desk, right on the paper. That means good work, great, I love what you're doing. This yellow one, what's the yellow light? It's caution, right? Tapping a pencil. And you usually take time. Please stop. That was one way he advised people that would communicate to the kid, this is a rule, you're interrupting the class, and you're annoying other people, please stop. What he used to say is public rules, private discipline. Public rules, private discipline. So you've done those things. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, now you said earlier that you kind of not jump in everything. But for example, yesterday I have a kid who decided he wasn't going to do any work.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, either you're going to do the work but you won't be sleeping in my class. So he said he still do anything. So I said, okay, go stand on the wall. He was there, but then he started making weird sounds. So I said to him, okay, turn around, face the wall. There was a door there, so he turned around and started banging his head on the door.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you have done in this after? What would be the next? Because eventually I wrote him up and said, okay. So my question is now, should I have allowed him to sleep? Then I would not have all those other issues, or?
Sleeping really is never an option in a classroom, is it? Because they're there for learning, and they can't learn while they're sleeping. They can't learn. There was a teacher I worked with one time, go by his classroom, wasn't all the time. I'd see a class, 3 or 4 kids were asleep. I mentioned that to him one time, because he was more experienced enough. He'd look at me and say, one thing you gotta remember is that a sleeping child is a compliant child. Yes, sir, I stand there. Needless to say, he was not my mentor, okay, nor anybody else's. Goodness gracious. Because among other things, besides the fact that that is your job to teach those kids, and if you allow them to sleep, you're not doing their job. We are getting into an age where they're taking standardized tests. And the State Department has a proposal, folks, that standardized test results will account for a part. There's one proposal that will count 1/3. It will count 1/3 of your annual evaluation. Up to 1/3 of your evaluation. We've got what? ADEPT now, safety, we've got induction, annual, and continuing. And it doesn't make a distinction. I tell you what part of this is. You know that how long do you normally stay on an annual contract? No, induction. 1 year. Starting next year will be 3. First year teachers in induction will go 3 years on an induction contract. They are, in essence, an at-will employee too. Okay? An administrator can say, wow, Mr. Marston, you did a wonderful job this year. You really did. Look at your test scores. You're an annual induction teacher. I'll talk to you later. You can go find another job. A little more complicated than that, but not much. So 3 years, and part of that is going to be test results. What are the standardized test results? We're not even going to get into that conundrum, because people would believe, like, well, Mr. Marston, he's got all the AP, IB, International Baccalaureate kids. That's that 20 to 25% that are intrinsically motivated. They can, as another principal friend of mine, I was his assistant one time, says, man, those kids, the teacher could go out fishing for half the year, not even show up to class, and they're still going to blow the top out of that test. okay? And Mr. Bethke here, he gets all the huddled masses. All right? He gets all those huddled masses. They have poor penmanship, no penmanship, bad credit, no credit. All right? He gets all those kids. And look at his test scores. You know, his test scores were flat. They were flat. They weren't much better than last year, but that's an accomplishment, some people would say. That's an accomplishment that he was at least able to hold the line with those kids. There was no brain drain, was there? You know, Marston here, of course all the kids got 5s on the AP. What do you expect? Is that fair? That's a whole different bailiwick. Now, the question gets to be, what do you do with those students who seem to be bound and determined to get the attention and eventually to get sent out of your class? It just seems like they're Hades bent on doing that. We'll get to that in a second. What we're going to talk about is, I was waiting for him to argue with you. Okay. We're going to be talking about stopping those arguments. You've done some of those things. You've been trained to counsel, ignore behavior, see but don't see. Ignore doesn't mean that you block it out totally. You see but you don't see. So you've done those things, and you just haven't been able to get across to those kids. So we have already said that. Where does an argument start?
The second time the adult says something.
Second time the adult says something. So, what we're going to talk about is something called foggers. Now, let's set up this scenario. Tammy, you're supposed to be taking notes, and so I've asked you to take notes before, so you just go ahead and please take your notes. Tammy, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, are you going to take some notes?
I will.
You will.
Mhm.
Daniel, you're not taking notes. Would you take some notes there? Daniel, we're here in class. You take notes? You need to take notes.
Okay.
All right.
I was trying to think what DeAndre would do.
Tammy was that intrinsically motivated kid. Okay.
Yeah.
Redirected her. Tried to redirect Daniel. Now his was a little bit. It was. But let's go down. Let's take it back, not to that level, Daniel. Okay. Let's say. Yeah, get your pen.
That's realistic for us, though.
Yeah,
As the
okay.
paper's fine.
But probably Daniel had been spoken to prior to that. What was it you said, Kristen? What was it you said earlier? Okay, take out, Kristen, take out your book and read.
I don't want to. I don't want to come to Lane. I don't come to school.
But that's what you have to be there.
No. I
Well, then why did you come here
I'm
then?
just gonna sleep. I'm just gonna
Okay,
sleep.
stop. Have we begun an argument? Okay. I didn't come to school to learn. And what did I say? Take note of what I said. Then what did you come to school for? What is she going to say? I have engaged in that argument. Okay? If I wanted to, maybe that was reflection. Okay? Maybe there was some counseling that I was trying to do. That's not the time or place, because what are you here for? You're here to teach. If you're teaching for 50 minutes, you want to maximize that time. You don't need to spend time trying to get her to read. She needs to know. This goes under the category of fathers. As an adult, you can say, I understand. I understand. Everybody say that. When Kristen said, I don't like to read, or I don't want to read. I understand. But you need to get your book out. I really don't want to read. I see. I see. All you're doing is agreeing or acknowledging that you heard her. You're not arguing with her. So I understand. I see. Uh-huh. How about this? Kristen, you need to take out your book. We're going to read. And your response was?
I don't